Good evening, Bogotá. You feeling well? Well, as Muhammad Amersi said, I came to Sweden as a political refugee with my mother and my sister. But I was born in Iraqi Kurdistan, and I was basically born stateless, oppressed, and very unwanted in the region. At that time, Kurds were being gassed, hanged, executed publicly, and tortured simply for being Kurds. And it was a very dark time. So my parents made the decision that a lot of parents and families had to do back then, and that was sell all our belongings and flee the country. We had a very dangerous journey ahead, where we were hiding in trucks and basically doing the same journey that people do today to get to Europe. Many times, I as a child would jeopardize everyone's lives in these tanks we used to hide in. I was screaming and crying for food. I was a child, and my mother simply had to do what she had to do in order to make sure that we got to Europe safely. That sometimes meant that she had to slap me so hard that I fell asleep. And although I say this with a smile on my face today and joke about it, it is things that she still carries in her heart with a lot of sorrow and resentment. And I know she's watching today, and I know it was necessary for her to do what she had to do just so we got to safety. We were, after all, being considered illegal, and if we were being caught, we would either be executed or sent back, and that was like choosing between death and death anyways. But eventually we did get to Sweden, and growing up in Sweden, I had a lot of difficulties with accepting friends with backgrounds from Iraq, Iran, and Turkey, and I do not say this with pride at all. I was much often indoctrinated to feel resentment and hate towards these children with these backgrounds because I was constantly reminded that they were the ones making fun out of my Kurdish identity, and they were the ones calling me stateless and always reminding me that I was a refugee. This automatically increased my resentment towards these group of people. As I grew up, I've learned to master the art of forgiveness, and it's the same kind of art I today teach to children at different refugee camps. What I take much pride in today is running my own foundation and organization, assisting families, women, and children who have fled war-torn regions just like myself or are based at different refugee camps. And I also make sure that we do not discriminate. I have learned to put humanity before anything else, and most importantly, that individuals or entire populations are not the ones to be blamed for their government's choices. Since 2017, I have managed to aid over 13,000 refugees, internally displaced and people and women in need across several regions, with main focuses in Iraq, Syria, Kurdistan, and Cambodia. Different kind of workshops, empowerment programs, healthcare, and education have all been a big part of the work that we carry out. But earlier this year, I started a different kind of project, one that I'm a little bit nervous to tell you all because I've got so much critique and backlash for it. I started the My ISIS Story project. A lot of people do not think integration and inclusion when they think violent extremism. This project gathers children from very difficult backgrounds, Muslims, Christians, Yazidis, atheists, but they have all fled the same enemy, which is ISIS. Some children whose fathers have joined ISIS are also included. Now, this has been quite a challenge, as many refuse to take part in the activities once I decide that they all should also be included. But I refuse. I refuse to neglect a group of innocent children, and I refuse to take part in paving the way of birthing a new generation of violent extremism for children that are innocent and not only refugees. I'm not going to do that. During this project, art has been a big part in promoting peace, inclusion, love, and understanding between the different groups of children. Children whose fathers have joined ISIS are given the opportunity to write letters or paint an experience to show and express their traumatic experiences they had living under ISIS in hopes of creating understanding between the other children. Please do remember that these children did not choose who their fathers were, but they did decide to leave. And the activities where the children get to express and share their traumatic stories have shown to be extremely therapeutic once they've all realized that their families were not too different after all. Understanding and acceptance has been a huge problem at many camps when different religious groups of people have been put together. And we know for a fact today that segregation and isolation birth violent extremism. And by blaming innocent children, refusing them to take part in activities, and blaming them for things they've had no control over, it is wrong and extremely inhumane. And refugees who grow into this kind of environment and isolation among each other may take this mindset with them if and when they arrive in Europe. I know I did growing up as a child in Sweden, and I still wish there would have been some sort of program or support for me so that I would have not hated my friends and that they would have learned to accept my Kurdish nationality. And these are children who have been sexually abused, they've been sold around, used as sex slaves, passed around, tortured, ripped, and forced to live under ISIS. And if we refuse them integration now and guidance, we are this way contributing and birthing a new generation of violent extremism. What I've learned is that we might inherit biological aspects of our parents, but we certainly do not inherit their crimes and hate. And I want to take this one last moment to thank One Young World for this opportunity, for today giving me one of the biggest highlights of my day, meeting an idol that my father used to have back when he was a Peshmerga and fighting the revolution. He used to write down quotes of Kofi Annan and wear it. And this is a huge day for me and my parents. And this is for them, and I thank Mr. Annan for the moments I was given with him. Thank you so much.